Okay, so here we are again. You know, I was just sitting here looking at this, and you know, most of you are gonna look at that, and what are you gonna see? I think most of you would say a dead tree, right? Well, I'm sitting here looking at this thing, and I'm thinking it would be perfect trellis for my asparagus beans. You know, it's going to take a bit of work because I'm going to have to do a little structural work on it. You know, I'm going to have to cut off some of this. Where is it? Some of these dead things like this. Some of these here. And, you know, cut off some of that. But I'm thinking this is a perfect project for creativity, for exercising our creativity. If you have an old dead tree, you could do the same thing. And my only real concern is, you know, this big trunk. I don't know how well the beans are going to get around that, how their vines are going to get around it. But, you know, I might have to cut off some of this stuff up here. I might have to cut some of that off, but you can see it's really dead. So it shouldn't be all that hard to get that cleared off. So I think I'll just get to work and, you know, show you guys as I go along instead of boring you with all of the actual labor. So I'll come back. Okay, so I got all of the larger stuff off. Some of it I had to cut out just because it was getting in the way of some of the other plums. But I left some of the smaller ones so that if the bean vines wants to curl around the top, they can and make a little bush on top. I don't know. Anyway, now I've used a lop saw or a pole saw for most of the work. Make sure that you have no little kids or pets or anything around while you're working on this. And pretty much just make it individual. I left one upright. It's quite tall. No bean's going to reach the top of that, but I don't care. I'm going to leave that one. So I guess the next step would be to get all this detritus cleared away, and then I'm going to have to dig a bed around the base. And you know, if you're gonna, don't worry about the roots, because you're not going to go deep enough to hurt the roots of the part that's still alive. That's this part. It's actually part of this dead tree here. But don't worry about hurting it because you're not going to be able to. Okay, so I'm going to go get this cleared away then. I'll be back. Okay, so I decided to go ahead and use paver or capstones around the edge of the bed. Just rake everything off, and then I'll just get everything raked off, and then I'll start cutting the sod. If you have a hole, or you know, if you're working on a planting mound like you've seen from earlier shows, all of this stuff can go into the mound. You don't have to throw it out. Or, you know, just throw it in the compost. Don't throw it out. Even if it's crappy soil or dirt, which is what we've got. You know, it's better to throw it in the compost or make a pile. You know, you can get worms or something out of it, and all of that stuff all of the organic stuff will just decompose and enrich it. So, you know, you could actually get something useful out of it. It only works for 1 year, but it's better than throwing it out. So I'm gonna I'll get this raked off and get some more capstones around it and start getting it dug. So we're in the middle of digging this bed, and it's a little wet because the water's on. But I wanted you guys to see just how awful this dirt is. And I can say dirt without any kind of... see, it's just all gravel. A little dirt holding it all together. But plants can't grow in that. Well, obviously grass can. But when the world ends, there's going to be 2 organisms left alive. Cockroaches and grass. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be able to grow that one. But I just wanted you to see that. You know, this is one of the things that makes it's the difference between a gardener and someone who just has a veggie patch. People with veggie patches don't have to deal with this. If they do, they're lazy veggie patch growers. Also, I wanted you to take a look. There's a couple of these kinds of trees in there that we've got to get out of here too. Make sure that when you get them out, we get them out by the roots. Otherwise they'll grow back. Yeah, this is the difference between a gardener and a veggie patch grower. It's like the difference between a race car driver and someone who just drives very, very badly. Anybody can drive a car. It takes skill to do it very well. Okay, I'll get back to digging. I'm giving my conscripted back a break. So I thought I'd, show you this, but maybe I'll take a break. Then I'll get back to digging. Anyway, I'll be back. Okay, so we got it dug, and again we're using old soil bags as liner, and we've just basically built a pot in the ground. It's about, probably about 6 inches deep. Plenty for beans. They don't have a real deep root. And we left slits. I don't know if you can. We made the bags overlap so there's a slit so that water can get through and the worms can come back up. So it's not like a solid platform. And the bags are going underneath the capstones. They'll eventually get covered up with dirt. You're not going to notice it, or grass or whatever. And then when we put the soil in, it'll hold down everything else. The edge here around the tree, you want the bags so that they're about at the soil level, the original soil level. You don't want to rot your tree unduly. We cleared off the crown. And okay, so we'll get the soil on there and then it'll be done. So I'll be back. Okay, so this is the finished bed. The finished tree trellis. So just to recap, we trimmed back all of the stuff that might damage the fruit and the trees near it. Then we put our stones around it so we knew where to cut. Then dug out a spade's depth, about 6 to 8 inches. Leveled it, put some old bags down so that as a weed barrier, so that nothing comes up through it, and then filled it with potting soil. Let me back up so you can see more of the effect. You're not going to be able to see all of it, but it actually turned out quite nice. Now I just need to go see if I have any plants that can go into it. I think I'm going to put beans in it, but you could put in almost any kind of vining plant. A wisteria would work in there. You'd probably have to cut through the bag because wisteria are kind of deep rooted. But you could put morning glory on there or moonflowers. Just about anything that can climb that trellis you can put in there, I would think. But you can also put other bedding plants in there. You could put some dianthus in there, or any small plants. If it's a veggie garden that an edible garden. This is an edible garden primarily. But if you're going to put edibles in there, you could put your asparagus in there. You could put maybe a ring of lettuces or radicchio, or You know, they don't have to go in rows. They can be decorative too. But I think that's all I'm going to do on this one. Maybe I'll put a few plants in there, but I think that's all for this one. See you later.